The Young and the Restless spoilers. In the dark undercurrents of Genoa's intricate power struggles, a new, enigmatic figure began to stir the depths of intrigue, a man known only as Billy Flynn. Though his exact role in the sprawling tapestry of Genoa had yet to be revealed, whispers among insiders hinted that he would emerge as a formidable antagonist. With a rugged, almost ferocious presence that seemed to defy expectations, Billy promised to add an entirely new dimension of tension and unpredictability to the unfolding drama. The unseen progeny. Rumors swirled that Billy Flynn might be none other than the long-lost son of Martin, a revelation that carried seismic implications for the power dynamics in Genoa. For years, Martin had maneuvered carefully through alliances and enmities, building a network of support that, until now, had operated in the shadows. The idea of having a son, someone with the potential to be not just an ally but a trusted confidant, presented Martin with an opportunity to reinforce his position. It was said that Martin's own ambitions had always been tempered by the desire for legacy, a legacy that would one day be carried forward by a worthy heir. The mere possibility of Billy being Martin's offspring ignited fervent speculation among the power brokers of Genoa. Some argued that Martin, with all his calculating wisdom, had deliberately kept the identity of his son a secret. Such a secret could serve as both a weapon and a safeguard, a means of consolidating his influence without exposing his most vulnerable asset to the harsh light of public scrutiny. In a world where allegiances were as shifting as the tides, the existence of a hidden heir provided Martin with an edge that no one could ignore. A fateful convergence. Behind the veil of secrecy, the stage was set for a clandestine meeting that would have far-reaching consequences. Martin, driven by his ambition and the need for a loyal ally, arranged a secret rendezvous with the man he believed could be the key to unlocking a new era of power. In a nondescript location far from prying eyes, a dim, sparsely lit room tucked away in an abandoned industrial building, Martin prepared to meet his long-hidden son. The air was thick with anticipation and unspoken truths, as both men understood that the meeting could alter the delicate balance of power in Genoa. Billy Flynn, whose every movement exuded quiet intensity and barely concealed defiance, arrived at the meeting with caution. His face, chiseled and imposing, betrayed little of the internal conflict that had raged for years. Raised in a world of secrecy and under the tutelage of figures whose loyalties were as mutable as shifting sands, Billy had learned early on that every alliance came with its price. Yet, despite the myriad deceptions that had shaped his life, he harbored a flicker of hope that this meeting could finally bridge the chasm between past and present, a chance to embrace the family he had been denied for so long. Their conversation, held in hushed tones and guarded phrases, was a delicate dance of revelations and half-truths. Martin spoke of long-held dreams and visions for a future where their combined strength could reshape the destiny of Genoa. He painted a picture of a world where the old order would crumble beneath the weight of a new, formidable force, a force built on loyalty, calculated ambition, and the cold pursuit of power. Billy, listening intently, remained enigmatic. His responses were measured, hinting at a willingness to join his father's cause, yet also suggesting that he had his own agenda. Both men understood that the stakes were high. Any misstep or revelation of their true identities could unravel the intricate web of deceit that had been so carefully woven over the years. Infiltrating the fortress of secrets. Simultaneously, a parallel plan was taking shape on another front. Billy Flynn was not alone in his mission. He had allied himself with two equally cunning operatives, Jack and another man also known as Billy, each chosen for their ability to move unseen through the corridors of Genoa's most powerful institutions. Their target, Jabo, a symbol of the entrenched elite and a repository of secrets that, if unlocked, could give them the leverage needed to subvert the established order. The trio's plan was audacious. By infiltrating Jabo, they aimed to extract crucial information about the clandestine operations that had been feeding the ambitions of those in power. Their goal was not mere espionage. It was a full-scale assault on the very foundations of trust and loyalty that had defined Genoa for decades. For Martin, whose long-term vision relied on both preserving his legacy and dismantling his adversaries, the success of this operation was essential. Every whispered piece of classified intelligence, every coded message uncovered in the labyrinthine corridors of Jabo, could tip the scales in his favor. Billy Flynn, acting as the linchpin of this covert initiative, was tasked with balancing dual identities. Publicly, he would maintain the guise of an enigmatic outsider, a mercenary with ambiguous loyalties. In the shadows, however, he was the embodiment of his father's unyielding ambition, a man who would stop at nothing to secure the future he believed was rightfully his. The thrill of the infiltration, combined with the underlying tension of familial secrets and hidden alliances, lent the entire operation an air of peril that was impossible to ignore. The weight of betrayal and hope. In the midst of these intricate maneuvers, one question haunted those who dared to consider the possibility: could Billy, as Martin's potential son, truly rise to the occasion? Was it conceivable that a bond forged in secrecy and betrayal could evolve into an alliance strong enough to challenge the overwhelming forces that sought to control Genoa? For Martin, the stakes were more than just political or strategic, they were deeply personal. The promise of a son who could share in the burdens and triumphs of legacy was a dream that had sustained him through years of isolation and calculated maneuvering. The possibility that Martin might finally have a true heir, a loyal companion who would stand by him in both victory and defeat, filled him with a fervor that bordered on desperation. It was as if the very future of Genoa rested on the unspoken hope that familial bonds, even those marred by deceit, could be the ultimate weapon against a world teetering on the brink of chaos. The anticipated meeting between father and son was not just an exchange of words, it was the crucible in which destinies would be forged. Both men recognized that their personal reconciliation, if it could ever be achieved, would signal the beginning of a new era, one in which the old allegiances would crumble and a ruthless new order would emerge. The uncertain path forward. As the conspiracies deepened and the machinations of power became ever more complex, the future of Genoa hung in a delicate balance. Aristotle and his cohorts, oblivious to the fact that their every move was being shadowed by those who sought to expose them, pressed on with their plans. Their objective was clear: to reshape the fabric of society through a cold, calculated manipulation of genetic secrets, to craft a new breed of power that would leave the old world in ruins. They were driven by a brutal ambition, one that viewed human relationships and trust as mere obstacles to be bypassed in the relentless pursuit of dominion. In stark contrast stood Martin and his covert alliance with Billy, Jack, and the other operative known as Billy. For Martin, the revelation of his potential son's identity was both a strategic asset and a deeply emotional turning point. It was an opportunity to mend the fractures of his past, a chance to forge a family from the ruins of betrayal and mistrust. The clandestine operations within Jabo, the secret meetings in abandoned rooms, and the coded exchanges that spanned the shadowy underbelly of Genoa were all part of a larger plan to outmaneuver the looming threat of Aristotle's monstrous vision. Yet, the path ahead was anything but certain. With every secret uncovered and every alliance tested, the risk of exposure loomed large. If the truth about Billy Flynn's identity were to leak, it could unravel the intricate network that Martin had spent years constructing. Such a revelation would not only jeopardize the mission but could also provide Aristotle with the ammunition he needed to crush his opponents once and for all. The stakes were immense, and every step had to be measured with utmost precision. The crucible of destiny. In a moment of quiet reflection, as twilight gave way to the inky darkness of night, Martin stood alone on a deserted rooftop overlooking Genoa. The city, a sprawling mosaic of ambition and despair, seemed to pulse with a life of its own. In that fleeting moment, Martin allowed himself to dream of a future where his son, his true heir, would emerge from the shadows to carry forward the legacy of their shared ambition. A future where the bonds of blood and loyalty would be unbreakable, even in the face of overwhelming adversity. Billy Flynn's destiny, intertwined with that of his father, was set against a backdrop of relentless scheming and unforeseen betrayals. The mystery of his allegiance, his role in the grand design, and his inner conflict between loyalty to family and the lure of power would ultimately shape the outcome of their shared endeavor. As Martin's thoughts turned inward, he clutched a faded photograph, a relic of a past that he had long tried to bury, a reminder of the fragile hope that had once sustained him in a world ruled by deception. And so, as the wheels of fate continued to turn in the dark corridors of Genoa, a question lingered in the minds of those who dared to envision a different future. Would Martin's hidden son, Billy Flynn, emerge as the steadfast ally needed to secure their ambition? Or would the intricate web of secrets and lies ultimately consume them all, leaving only the bitter taste of betrayal in its wake? Only time would tell if this dangerous gambit, a delicate balancing act between familial loyalty and ruthless ambition, would succeed in toppling the established order. For now, the forces at play in Genoa marched steadily toward an uncertain climax, where every whispered secret and every concealed agenda would collide in a cataclysm of ambition, treachery, and the desperate hope for redemption. In this tumultuous world, the future remains shrouded in mystery. Martin's potential reunion with his hidden son, the strategic infiltration of Jabo by Billy and his cohorts, and the looming threat of Aristotle's nightmarish vision form a complex tapestry of ambition and betrayal. As Genoa braces for the inevitable clash between old loyalties and new power, one truth becomes clear: in a realm where secrets are currency and trust is fleeting, every alliance is a gamble, and every decision may be the difference between salvation and ruin. In the midst of Genoa's ceaseless power struggles, a new force of seduction and manipulation began to ripple through the city's underbelly, a force embodied by the handsome and enigmatic Billy Flynn. His arrival was heralded by whispered rumors and furtive glances. There was no denying that Billy possessed a magnetic charm capable of captivating even the most guarded hearts. As his reputation grew, it soon became clear that his allure wasn't solely for show. It was a potent weapon in the dangerous game of betrayal and ambition that defined Genoa's elite. The seductive art of deception. Billy's striking looks and suave demeanor made him the perfect candidate to infiltrate the world of Jabo, the formidable dynasty known for its wealth and political influence. Among the women of Jabo, names like Summer, Claire, and even one intriguingly enigmatic figure known simply as Billy were mentioned in hushed tones. Each of these women, already ensnared in the intricate web of Jabo loyalties, was seen as both a potential asset and a target in Billy Flynn's meticulous strategy. His charm was such that he could effortlessly steal the hearts of those who had long believed themselves untouchable, an audacious claim that sent ripples through the social circles of Genoa. For Billy, seduction was not an end in itself but a means to a greater objective. His ability to weave desire and trust allowed him to penetrate the inner sanctum of Jabo's power. He was determined to extract their secrets, to dismantle their carefully constructed defenses from within. His plan was as calculated as it was ruthless. To charm his way into their most intimate confidences, turning their passion and loyalty into vulnerabilities he could exploit. Victims of his intricate game. Yet, behind every masterful scheme lay a trail of shattered trust. While Billy's allure ensnared several of Jabo's key figures, others, like Kyle and a woman also named Billy, would unwittingly become casualties in his coldly orchestrated game. Kyle, known for his steadfast nature and deep connections within Genoa, would soon find himself drawn into a labyrinth of deception. The gentle confidence he once carried was no match for Billy Flynn's calculated seduction and manipulative prowess. Similarly, the enigmatic woman bearing the name Billy, whose own secrets and desires were as hidden as the depths of the city's dark alleys, would become ensnared in a web of betrayal that left her questioning every intention behind every smile. For those caught in his path, the charm that had initially captivated them would gradually reveal its darker side, a charm that was designed not to comfort, but to control. The relationships he forged were never meant to be genuine. they were strategic moves on a chessboard where every emotion was a piece to be sacrificed for the promise of a larger victory. Martin's vision and the burden of legacy. Amidst this seductive chaos, the patriarch Martin harbored a vision that was as personal as it was political. He believed that his long-hidden son, Billy Flynn, the very man whose allure had shaken the foundations of Jabo, was destined to be the catalyst for his grand plan. The complete dismantling of Jabo's power structure. For Martin, the stakes were not merely about reclaiming influence. They were about restoring a legacy that had been slowly eroded by betrayal and shifting allegiances over the years. Martin had always dreamed of returning to Genoa as a force to be reckoned with. And in his eyes, the success of his son's infiltration was the only way to achieve that goal. His ambition was entwined with deep-seated emotions, the unfulfilled longing for a true family. For a bond that went beyond the cold calculations of power. He saw in Billy not only a trusted ally but also a living embodiment of his aspirations, a living legacy that could finally shatter the chains of the past and reclaim the future. The uncertain alliance with Jabo's nemesis. The stakes were further complicated by the volatile alliances that Billy Flynn had already begun to forge. In his clandestine operations, he allied himself with figures whose loyalty was as fluid as the shifting tides of Genoa's political scene. Jack, a master of subterfuge with an eye for valuable secrets. And another operative, also known in the underground circles simply as Billy, formed a trio with Billy Flynn that was as dangerous as it was unpredictable. Together, they embarked on covert missions aimed at infiltrating Jabo, intent on unearthing and exploiting the very secrets that held the family's power intact. Their plans were audacious. To turn Jabo's internal network against itself, to weaken its iron grip from within, and to create fractures that Martin's vision could exploit. With each carefully executed maneuver, the conspirators inched closer to their goal, even as they risked exposure with every whispered conversation and every clandestine meeting held in the shadowed corners of Genoa. A love torn between desire and fear. Amid the swirling vortex of schemes and seduction, another personal battle was unfolding, a battle that pitted raw ambition against the tender vulnerabilities of the heart. Martin's infatuation with Traci, a woman whose grace and resilience had long captivated him, had driven him to envision a future far removed from the ruthless games of power. He dreamed of whisking her away to Paris, a city of light and romance, where the scars of Genoa's betrayals could be healed by the promise of love and new beginnings. However, the very traits that had made Martin a formidable force, the same monstrous ambition and cruelty that had propelled his rise in the shadows, were now working against him. Traci, despite the affection that flickered between them, was gripped by an overwhelming fear. Her heart could not reconcile the gentle moments of tenderness with the harsh reality of his unyielding and, at times, terrifying nature. Every proposal of a new life together was met with hesitation, every promise of fidelity overshadowed by the specter of his past transgressions. For Traci, the idea of marriage with Martin was a bittersweet paradox, a union that promised love but also threatened to expose her to the darker facets of his soul. The crossroads of fate. In this intricate tapestry of seduction, betrayal, and ambition, every character was forced to confront the duality of desire and duty. Billy Flynn's journey was marked by a seductive charm that masked a cold, calculating intent. His interactions with Jabo's women were both his greatest weapon and the source of potential disaster. Meanwhile, Martin's desperate quest for legacy and redemption collided headlong with the vulnerability of his own heart, a vulnerability that put Traci in the unenviable position of torn affection and mounting fear. The city of Genoa itself seemed to pulse with the energy of these conflicting forces. Every whispered secret in the opulent halls of Jabo, every hidden glance exchanged in the labyrinthine corridors of power, contributed to an atmosphere heavy with suspense and impending doom. As Billy Flynn's web of influence expanded, it threatened to engulf not only his enemies but also those who had once considered themselves allies. Kyle and the woman named Billy, now unwitting victims of his seductive machinations, were caught in a trap from which escape seemed nearly impossible. The inevitable collision. With Martin's ultimate plan hinging on the successful destruction of Jabo's reign and the full revelation of his son's formidable talents. The convergence of these personal and political dramas was all but inevitable. Every carefully laid scheme, every whispered plan, was building toward a climactic confrontation that promised to redefine the balance of power in Genoa. Would Billy Flynn, with his dazzling charm and hidden agenda, prove to be the instrument of Martin's long-awaited return? Or would his manipulations, fueled by ambition and a desire to control hearts and minds alike, ultimately spiral out of control, leaving behind a trail of shattered loyalties and irreparable loss? In the shadow of these looming uncertainties, Martin's dreams and Traci's apprehensions intermingled with the relentless pace of ambition. The future of Genoa, once defined by predictable alliances and age-old rivalries, was now teetering on the brink of a dramatic transformation, a transformation that might well be orchestrated by the very hands that had once been trusted to protect it. For every act of seduction carried a hidden dagger, for every whispered promise masked an ulterior motive, and for every alliance forged in secrecy, there lurked the potential for devastating betrayal. As the city braced for the collision of these dark and entangled destinies, one thing remained indisputable: in Genoa, where every heart was a battlefield and every smile a prelude to treachery, the cost of ambition was measured not in gold or power, but in the fragile, irrevocable bonds of love and loyalty. And in that relentless pursuit of power, the true victors would be those who could navigate the treacherous interplay of desire and deception, while risking everything to safeguard the very essence of what it meant to be human.